Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome along. Feels like I'm delivering a sermon. I mean, this location's fantastic. Welcome to Men's Smell. You've heard of loose women, we're the smelly men, but in a good way, My name is Haydn Williams. I'm a freelance writer. I have a podcast called Man in the Mirror, which, to be honest, was the inspiration for this talk, really, where I talk to men about grooming, fragrance, self-care, self-image, things like that. So it prompted an idea that, maybe we should have a conversation live. I also have a social channel called You Smell Great, What Is It? So, you can find me doing fragrance things over there. And I'm delighted to introduce my panel. And to my left, we have TJ. Now, TJ is a fragrance and lifestyle content creator with over 230,000 followers on TikTok. Woo! Let's give it a whoop. And 70,000 on Instagram with his channel TJ Talks Sense. TJ has a really approachable, laid-back style, and it's made him one of the most popular and trusted sources of fragrance information for young men on social media. We have Vesa Kalho, who is a beauty buyer who has worked at places such as Harrods and Fenwick. He is originally from Finland. He's worked his way up through the retail space, and last year Vesa was awarded the CEW Members Achiever Award to recognise all he's done and continues to do in the beauty and fragrance industry. We have next to him Dariush Alavi, also known as Persolaise. Now, Dariush is a fragrance writer. He's the host of Love at First Scent on YouTube, which has clocked up over 550 episodes, I think now. Maybe more.
Yes, probably,
lots.
Yeah.
He's been doing it a long time. He's the author of a book called Le Snob, Perfume, which is a guide to fragrance. And Dariush is a multiple Jasmine Award winner and one of the most authoritative voices in fragrance journalism. And is that right? Yeah. And finally, to my left, we have Adam Hurly. Now, Adam is a grooming journalist who writes for titles such as GQ, Forbes, The Robe Report, and now has his own online source for everything to do with grooming called Blueprint by Adam Hurly. Now, Adam's flown all the way from Lisbon to do this for us. I'm really grateful. I'm just hoping he's not going to put in some kind of expenses receipt with his flight. But
I love a write-off. So.
Yeah. So if you could welcome my panel, give them a big round of applause. Thank you very much. Thank you. So just a brief mention about what this talk is not about. It's not intended to exclude anyone from the conversation. Fragrance is for everyone, and regardless of how they identify their gender. So I want everyone to feel welcome, and this is a safe and beautifully smelling place. It's also not actually about, we're not gendering fragrance. It's not to say these are fragrances for men. But I wanted to do a male panel just to see how we might look at fragrance through a male lens. So what does that mean in terms of the retail space, in terms of content creation, how we consume our media, and to examine some of the issues that are going on at the moment. Not least, there's a really interesting area of younger men getting involved in fragrance, and I'm delighted to see some of them here today. But I think that's just testament to the fact that fragrance is being opened up to a younger audience. I think that's a fascinating thing. I think it's a very welcome thing, but I think there's some things to discuss and unpack within that. Some of the influences there. But we're so lucky to have this panel who are going to be able to shed light on it. A bit of housekeeping. We're going to talk for 40 minutes or so. There's going to be a little brief intermission in the middle where we can smell something good, and everyone will get a chance to have a smell. There's a blotter squad who are going to pass a test around, and we'll share our thoughts from the panel, but really just a chance to smell something that's available over at the fair. But also, I'm conscious that I'm so lucky to have this panel, and I'm sure some of you have come here to see specific people, so I want to leave time at the end. Please make sure I do leave some time for questions and answers, because I've no doubt you might have some questions for the panel. So this is like the best looking Question Time panel you've ever seen, and I'm a worse looking Fiona Bruce. But I saw something just a couple of days ago actually online from the retail guru and broadcaster Mary Portas, and she was talking about the joy economy, and this struck a chord with me because it feels like joy is exactly what fragrance is about. Joy for the wearer and maybe joy for the people who get to smell it too. And she framed this joy economy as a must-have for business. And it's just a little quote from her where she said, "In this modern world of permanent doom and anxiety, the power of joy is not just a nice to have, it's a critical advantage. To go beyond the spectacle into the sensory through playful, interactive, real-world experiences that bring people together and transport them into new worlds, away from the weight of the real one," which I thought was, we get to experience fragrance and it does bring such joy. And actually, maybe we've come to fragrance at just the right time when we all need it a huge amount. So my first question to my panel, I felt like I went on a bit. It's just my TED talk, but my first question to my panel is about that joy in fragrance. And maybe when did that joy first come into your life? When did you first experience the joy of fragrance? TJ?
Yeah, for me, my mum and dad have always been into fragrances. My dad had a collection of like 50 or 60.
Is he still into it?
He's still into
Yeah.
it. My mum's still into it. In the house, we had candles everywhere, every room. Incense as well, so smells has always been something that ingrained in my household. And
You saw that from a young age?
Yeah, literally 10 years old. And then I started wearing my dad's fragrances to school. So maybe
like what sort of fragrances?
He was wearing Aramis.
Yes,
Which is a proper
it's a classic.
Yeah, so that's what he was wearing. And then I just started wearing them from then. And then I would say I really got into perfumes myself and went out and spent my own money on it, probably university time, so just over 10 years now.
Right. And how about you, Vesa?
I think I'm going to show my age here now as well, but
we're similar
exactly.
vintage.
And I was led by marketing, definitely. But my first ever fragrance was CK1. And ever since then, I've worn fragrance every day. Even during like lockdown, I had to wear a fragrance every day. So for me, fragrance is part of my day-to-day.
Which is interesting because obviously fragrance is your work as well, but you never get that thing of being the pizza chef who gets sick of pizza. Do you still love it?
Love it. And in my job I get to smell like 10-15 fragrances a day easily, but yeah, I love it.
And you have that privilege of getting to smell new things ahead of everyone else, and
much before anyone else. Yes,
he's the guy to ask. How about you, Dariush? When did the joy of fragrance come into your world?
This is when I find out if this is on. No, it's not. Is it? It is. Okay.
Yeah, we can hear you.
First of all, can I just say it's really, really great to see lots of familiar faces in the audience. Clearly, you came for the other guys, but it's nice to see you anyway. No, I have to blame my mum specifically. I grew up in Dubai in the Middle East, and my mum used to work at what was then the only independent perfumery in Dubai. For anybody who knows Dubai at the time, it was a shop called Abaya. It was on Diafa Street, which is now called 2nd of December Street. The shop doesn't exist anymore. And she would come home from work bringing, half-empty testers or miniatures, and I found myself genuinely interested by this stuff to the point that I started collecting, and I had a shoebox of these little samples, and I still have the shoebox. So that's how it started.
I love it. Adam, what about you?
So I took a job in journalism because I studied journalism and not because I knew anything about grooming. And so I kind of learned to love it by nature of my job. And I also had a background in film and in screenwriting. And so I think it was a good friend of mine. He's a perfumer for Arquiste. His name is Carlos. He's been a guest on your show. I went to Mexico City with him, I think in 2014 or 2015 when he was launching some fragrances there. I'm very good friends with his sister. So, we popped up and we just had an excuse to hang out. And I got to see him tell the stories of all his fragrances and just really see him sell his brand and his vision. And I started realizing like he's doing the same thing with these fragrances that like I've done with scripts and manuscripts and whatnot. And I think that was sort of when a light bulb switched. And I also probably sensed myself settling into the category a little more and being like, I can make a home here. Like I'm not just doing this job functionally as a journalist, like I can love this. And So I think seeing it through his eyes made me fall in love with it. So I probably do write about Arquise more than a lot of other brands, but that's probably for that
brand.
reason.
And
yeah.
Carlos is a fantastic communicator about there's a real intellect to it as well, but he's, I've had him on the podcast and he was absolutely fascinating. Yeah. So something else I want to talk about, and I think I mentioned it earlier on, is just this phenomena of teenage boys getting more engaged with fragrance. And it feels like a topic that when my colleagues and I are out, and these guys, I'm sure when they're at events or at trade things, lots of people are really interested in it. And I'm also aware that I'm a 52-year-old man, so it's no good me just sort of pontificating. It's much. I'm lucky I have a 16-year-old son who's a good person to road test some of these theories on, but also wanted to get this panel here to really get into this topic, and particularly I have to say TJ, because as I mentioned, he really communicates with this audience, and I can say it and I'm sure he wouldn't, but they look up to him and his content is revered by guys in this sector. So I wanted to just find out and start with TJ. What do you attribute this interest in from boys and young men? Do you think is it all down to social media? What do you put it down to, TJ?
I think that's a massive part of it. For me, it was social media. So I got in and I started watching YouTube content. So I was watching Demi Rollin, Jeremy Fragrance back in the days. And that's what sparked my interest more to go out and test a bunch of fragrances. So 100% social media has to play a massive part.
And did it make you want to create your own content?
Not initially, because I was watching their content for 5-6 years.
Right.
And then it wasn't until TikTok came around and I saw that this was a platform for shorter content, and I saw a few people in the UK doing it, but the angle that I wanted to kind of come from was you don't have to buy everything, but luckily enough in London, we have the opportunity to try pretty much everything. So that's what I done.
And did it happen quite quickly for you, whereby you were getting invited to things and getting sent bottles, or did that happen over a period of time?
I think it was pretty quick. It was within 6 months, I would say. I was getting sent out PR packages, which was like dream come true. I started it to maybe get a free bottle or two, but just through the sheer passion. But a lot of people are getting into it now. There's a few guys in the room that make content as well that I speak to, and it's from watching other people online create content around fragrances that sparks your kind of interest.
So do you think social media has somehow democratized this sector and allowed more people to find out about brands and see what's going on?
100%. I've gone places in Paris, Dubai, just through a TikTok video, just seeing someone post about, look at this store that's got this fragrance, and I've gone there, and I know people have done that the same with my content. So it's opened up for people to be able to know what's actually out there.
Yeah. And tell me, just because I could do with a definition, this idea of smell maxing, what does that mean to you?
I've never actually used the word. Smell maxing.
We should have talked about this before. I think.
I've never used the word, but I assume smell maxing is just trying to smell the best.
Smell your best.
Yeah, literally.
Simple as that.
Simple. But if I look on
Thanks
Google,
everybody, goodbye.
but it might mean something totally different. But yeah, I'm not as young as I might look.
Vesa, from a retail point of view, are you seeing this happen? Are you seeing lots of young guys coming into stores? Is it making a difference to the bottom line, I think, as they say?
I think I've also got a kind of like a personal story in that sense that my partner and I, we've got 5 nephews between ages of 17 to 21.
Right.
A few years ago, none of them cared what I do for a living. They were like, beauty, like, what is that? And last Christmas, all of them wanted fragrance for Christmas. And they wanted good stuff. They were like, we want expensive, we want niche, X-ray version. I was like, okay, calm down. But in that sense, that how fast as well it has come. But yes, I do see definitely young boys coming into stores, wanting to smell great fragrances, and they really understand about niche and like the perfumers, the ingredients, I didn't know at that age,
Because the information's now out there.
Exactly, because it's out there so easily available.
And Adam, are you seeing this play out in terms of products that you're sent? Do you think it's working its way up the chain in terms of product development now, trying to cater to this younger audience?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the volume of launches that are coming out from some brands all at once is perhaps part of this too, and just the fact that I think a lot of these young men want their own individual scent. So I think brands are kind of throwing as much at a wall and seeing what sticks more than anything.
We're seeing that, aren't we? Where there's a real volume of releases coming, or a brand putting out a whole lot of releases really quickly.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's whether they're just buying formulas that already exist that have a perfumer attached to it, or just let's let democracy decide which of these is still around in a couple of years.
Yeah.
But I do think that there is some currency to what these young men are doing, and they want to smell individual or smell unique. And I don't think it's that everyone's trying to smell like Chanel Blue like they maybe were 10 or 15 years ago. Everyone, like I'm assuming that if you are wearing Chanel Blue and you're, in your circle of guys who all smell great, you might be the plebe. I don't know if it's a fantastic scent, but I don't know, that might be the easiest thing that you want to show that you know more, that you found the cool thing. And so
do you think people are looking out more for something that's more individual and more of a signature for them?
I do think so. And I think I kind of compare right now to the heyday of streaming, like 5 or 6 years ago. I know everyone is moving to LA to be screenwriters or TV writers, and all these incredible shows are popping up, and it's run its course, and we have a lot of writers now are out of work, and they can't find and I do think that in some ways this will course correct a little bit, but I think the cream will rise, and like the passion will still be there, but I think we're seeing sort of the glut right now. And then the nice thing is I think the niche brands will always succeed in this space. I think they have a story to tell, and they have a point of view from a founder typically, but I think these mass labels I don't want to put any brands on blast here, but I'm thinking top of mind here, like last year, like Fendi, Bottega, even Petite ran 5 at once, I think. And I don't think we'll see that in a few years is my prediction. That is, here's 5 all at one time, and let's see which ones, you guys decide which ones are good.
It's interesting you were saying about, will it course correct and will the phenomena change a bit? But it'd be interesting to see in a few years if, we've brought the young men into the world of fragrance, and you hope it becomes this enticing place that they might then head off into different directions and get into different houses or different styles. Then it'd be lovely to think that they kind of stay with the industry and stay engaged and stay as consumers. It won't just be a fad that something else comes along like skateboarding or
I also think
pizza.
that these young men are they want to try as many things as possible, and I think I might be jumping ahead in the conversation here, but a lot of it is, and I don't say this as a bad word, but I think it's born of insecurity that you have at a certain age, that you want to figure out which one of those things is you, and you want to try as many of those things. I'm thinking of a niece that is like 1 year she's gothic, and the next year she's a jock, and the next year she's a Barbie girl. I'm like, okay, you're figuring that out.
Just
and
trying
you're
on different
hats.
But
But what's great is all these young men are probably in a few years, and there'll be new young men who replace them and are going on that journey, but they're probably going to be really informed. They're going to have their favorites. They're going to still be fans of it. Sneakerheads are always going to be sneakerheads, but they might not put $5,000 into their sneaker budget. They might buy a couple a year that they really love. And I think that we're just seeing this new wave of fandom exist, which is fabulous.
And it's an age where you can put money into your passions, as you say, and so they've not got to the stage where they're having to buy houses necessarily, pay for families and all those, and things change. But it is exciting when you've got your, early paychecks or your pocket money, whatever it might be, and you can really, that sort of purity of that's the thing I want to spend my money on, isn't it?
And they're all gathering at school every day, so there's 60 of them in one place, and
Dariush, what's your view? I mean, do you see any problem with this anywhere? I read some stuff online just last week about younger men and it all being about power and dominating a room. Do you think there's a darker side to this at all, or should we just appreciate the?
If there are men involved, there's going to be a darker side. No, I'm joking.
We speak as them.
No.
Yes.
The thing, I'm not used to not asking the questions. What do we mean by teenage boys? Are we literally talking about men who are below the age of 18, or? Yes,
we do in terms of teenagers, yes, or up to 19. But I'm broadening it, I think, to talk about younger men, teenagers and early 20s.
It is a fascinating phenomenon. I noticed that I don't think anybody has yet actually used the word collecting. And I'm really, really wary of generalizing about gender. It is usually a bad idea to generalize about gender. But if we can generalize about gender for a couple of seconds.
Do it.
I think it taps into this kind of geeky male thing of wanting to collect. And I wonder how many of these perfumes are actually purchased to be worn as opposed to being possessed and being smelt. I mean, I have lots and lots of perfumes in my collection that I don't actually wear, but I enjoy smelling them. So that's one thing. The problem, if we want to kind of delve into the potentially darker side of this, is how are they affording this stuff? You know, where is the money coming from? I was talking to a chap who owns a chain of perfumeries in Germany. Most of them, I think, are in Berlin. And I can't, and you know, he very, very genuinely is concerned about where this money is coming from, because he has got teenage boys queuing up, you know, sort of round the block. And I can't say the theories that he put forward as to where the money is coming from, because genuinely, no, I'm being serious. It wouldn't be appropriate for the audience here today. But he's thinking, you know, somewhere this, you know, there is a source of this money. So I suppose maybe that's the problem, because this stuff ain't cheap, but...
Well, there's some younger guys here.
Yes.
Can we ask, I mean, it seems like a simple question. Would anybody feel comfortable enough to say, you know, if you're not yet working full time, and we're talking about teenage boys, I hear this, you know, where does the money come from? Like it's, you know, it's an issue. But is anyone comfortable saying how they do afford to buy fragrances? I'd love to hear, because seeing as we've got people in the room, yes. Do you want, Adam, can you just pass the mic? Is that right? Thank you.
You need to tell us your name as well.
So I'm Freddie, and like what I do to get my fragrances is because I have a collection of like 50 plus fragrances.
Do you?
So the way I get the money is like I get pocket money, and then I literally just save it up until I can get a fragrance that I want, then I buy it. But my mum gets so angry when I buy fragrances, because she's like, it's got to stop. It's an addiction. It's like, I get too much.
Thank you. That's really interesting. So yeah, I mean, if a fragrance could well be £100, £200, you have to do a bit of saving, are you?
Yeah, and also if I get money on my birthday, or
if you've done good
birthday
stuff,
present, Christmas present, something like that, then the money I can guarantee you will 99% of the time go towards a fragrance.
That's fascinating. Thank you so much for sharing. But Dariush raises an interesting point as well. I think, you know, that male, seeing as we're men and we're talking about men's smell, that is there something about the male psyche where it is about collecting and codifying, and, you know, you often see content where it's about, you know, top 10 this, or this is the most beast mode that. Do you think, this is open to anybody, do you think men are more interested in that sort of almost kind of Top Gear style, you know, putting things in categories and lists and top 10s and beast mode? Is that fair? Anybody?
Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah. And do we like to list things?
Yeah, we do. And I think the only bad thing is when it comes to collecting. Like, you feel like you have to keep buying the next best thing. And the rate that these brands are putting out perfumes, you have to buy 5, 10 a day. So I would just say, just go out and try as much as you can, and literally get a sample of it, test it.
Yeah, you don't have to buy a full bottle.
You don't have to. And then when you fall in love with it, then you can make the purchase.
That's good advice. Is it Freddie? Yeah, listen to TJ. He's saying, hold out for the ones you really love.
Well, I even noticed you guys were in the Parfums de Marly store sampling the new product in the store. I even think that's like a good example to set in terms of, like, you don't have to possess it at your house to have an opinion about it. You can actually go to the store and smell and engage with it and decide if you want to buy it.
And it is the great thing now about most fragrances, but certainly with, you know, the niche and indie sector, you're very likely to be able to get a discovery set or a sample, and it's a great way, as these guys say, to live with it a little bit and really find out if it's a must-have, you know, a real passion. Because we can't. There's so many beautiful things, and we can't afford to spend hundreds. Well, most of us can't afford to spend hundreds of pounds. TJ, I wanted to ask you about shopping again as a man from a male point of view. I've seen some of your content where you've had some issues in certain London stores. We don't necessarily have to name them. You can if you want. But what was that? What was that about? Are you okay to share what happened?
Yeah, that was kind of a specific incident. That was just with one brand. But in terms of the whole shopping experience, I love going out and testing fragrances in store. I don't like buying online. So the thing
you want that in.
Yeah, I have to try it in store. I don't
Yeah.
want to blind buy. I know people find it fun and stuff. I don't. I'd rather try the fragrance first. So when I go in store, I understand both sides of it. So staff have sales targets to meet and whatnot. But as a customer, you want to be able to come in and enjoy the shopping experience.
Unhurried and unrushed, yeah.
You don't want to feel like as soon as you come in, you are kind of forced to purchase something. So the best stores that I like going in, they will allow me to have a little browse. They might even pop a few fragrances on the counter and say, before you go, make sure you try these, they're new. But if someone comes to me straight as I come in the store and say, we got an offer on today, if you buy 2, you get 50, I'm just like, I just want to get out of it.
Yeah,
So,
or that sort of, that immediate, how can I help you today?
Yeah. It's like, just let me have a little browse. And then I think a lot of people don't want to speak to anybody in the store, but I always say to them, the staff in the store have probably been trained by the brands or the perfumers coming, so they have more knowledge than you, and they can help you kind of make an informed decision on what fragrance to buy. But I think the balance needs to be right.
But do you think anything was to do with your age or anything like that? It was just about just hassling you because they wanted to
Yeah, it was
sell
just
your stuff.
just one idiot in particular.
Yeah.
Basically. Yeah.
And Vesa, in store, are you, again, talking about young men, are you hearing anecdotally that there's, do retail staff and people on the shop floor have issues with younger guys, or are they happy to, they've got money and they're happy to
No, I haven't personally heard that. And in that sense that we know that it's happening, in that sense that boys come in a group and, they want to try a lot of different fragrances. And in that sense that, yes, as a retailer, we want to make sales. But at the same time, because fragrance is so personal, what I would hate is that you are rushed into a decision because you need to live with that fragrance for a little while before you make that decision at the same time. So for me, it's like, you have to take your time.
Yeah. You don't want that thing, like in newsagents near schools, only 2 school children at a time. You don't want any of that. Look, we're going to take a short intermission now to have a smell. So I think there are some members of the blotter squad. You'll see them in pink high-vis. You cannot miss them. They're going to pass round. It's a fragrance called Spirit by Vallense. Now, I don't know if you've been across to the main hall. William Burrell is outside. Thank you very much. William is outside with his ice cream cart, and he's got his 3 fragrances in ice cream form that you can smell. And this is one of the fragrances called Spirit. So I thought we'd just have a brief little smell and see what you think. I suppose I chose it because William's here and he's an independent brand, and I think it's good to put it in context and have a smell. But also I think it felt quite suitable because it's, whilst we're not gendering fragrance, it certainly is a fragrance I like. It's from that sort of fougere family. So I wondered from the panel, Dariush, what do you think of this Spirit?
See, I'm tempted to ask questions. Can I just show of hands from the ladies, would you like the men in your lives to smell like this? I mean that question genuinely.
Honest opinion. Yeah, there you go.
It's interesting this. Thank you. Can I just give an anecdote that maybe might take up 2 minutes of time?
Do it.
Very, very, very quickly. A lot of mainstream releases tend to be quite generic, quite predictable.
Dariush,
and
pull the mic down a little bit. 'Cause you're
down.
Yeah.
There
you go.
A lot of mainstream releases tend to be quite generic, as we know. And if I smell a lot of mainstream stuff that's aimed at women, if I smell a lot of mainstream stuff that's aimed at men, I mean, you mentioned Bleu de Chanel. That's a good example because I can't stand that perfume, and I think is a good example of the kind of thing that I'm talking about. There are so many perfumes for men that follow that kind of cardboard cutout pattern. There are lots of perfumes for women that do the same thing, but I kind of don't mind them, maybe because I think, it would be quite nice if a woman smelt of that. And somebody, actually it was Susie, you were here saying, Susie, you once said to me, I think, that actually you don't mind some of the more generic stuff for men because you think, but it's quite nice. I would quite like a man to smell of that. And this sort of makes me think of that. It's a classic
quite old school,
fougere.
isn't it?
Yeah, it's a classic fougere in many ways, classic sort of 80s fougere. But I can't help but thinking, okay, we've had this before, and so why has it been made now in 2024? But clearly it's ticking boxes for some people out there. Yes, maybe.
We can go and go to the ice cream cart and
That's my considered opinion.
ask William why he's done it. Adam, what's this doing for you? What do you think?
Well, first I want to say that at Rob Report, we just gave Blue de Chanel a Hall of Fame award this week.
Yes.
Differing opinions. I love anything barbershop fougere. Like, to me, that's one of my favorite categories. Anything that you can call green is a winner for me. I love this. But I also have like a really bad recall. I can't compare scents really easily very well.
So this mint is kind of interesting, isn't it?
I love a minty scent. Yeah, I think that's it's very polar. Things like eucalyptus, anything under that category are polarizing, but they polarize me towards them. And so for me, this is a winner.
What do you think, Vesa?
Personally, it's not for me.
Yeah.
But because, for example, today I'm wearing fragrance with an iris. So in that sense that I like more of a floral, soft, powdery type of fragrances. So I'm not leaning into green fragrances myself. But, at the same time, as a retailer, I'm like, you know what? I think this could sell. So in that sense, I'm like,
Always working.
Exactly.
TJ, what do you think?
I think it's an easy fragrance to like.
Yeah.
On the card, it smells totally
Hard to
different.
love or easy to like?
Easy to like, yeah. But on the card, because I sprayed this earlier today, on skin it's totally different. It opens up like a mojito, like super
nice.
bright minty. But on the card, I'm not getting it as much.
Thank you very much for that little smelling intermission. Vesa, thinking about the retail space, in terms of men buying fragrance, just interested what's going on at the moment. Is it all about gender free? I mean, there's still obviously a huge market for fragrances that are gendered, if you like. But what are you seeing in the retail space that men are buying or that are aimed at men?
There is still very much aimed for men.
Yeah.
Fragrances, definitely.
So you'll send men to a certain area generally.
Yeah, but at the same time, I think within niche, the brands understand that they can't be just male or female as such in that sense that, but at the same time, I think you then have to be mindful of like even your packaging in that sense that it appeals for both at the same time. But we are seeing definitely more and more of that, more generic, that it's not aimed for women or for men in that sense. But there are certain kind of like fashion brands still doing that, very much that men's fragrance.
Yes, yeah. I mean, it's still a big sector. And of course, on the high street, where most people are consuming their fragrances, if you go into Superdrug or Boots or any of these places, I mean, it's very delineated, isn't it? It's very clear. That's the sort of brighter, more colourful female section there, and the men's one tend to be sort of blacks and greys and reds and things like that. It's still very gendered, I suppose. So I suppose for a lot of people, that's their experience of fragrance shopping, isn't it? Dariush, you're the author of a fragrance guide, and something else I wanted to touch on is just about, we hear a lot about building up a scent wardrobe, and I think it was something you touched on in the book. But do you have any advice for how people might start a collection, or what sort of things could feature in it?
I think my advice is speak to Freddie.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think the idea of a fragrance wardrobe has been around for a few years now, and it's not rocket science, is it, to say that I don't think anybody out there, maybe most people, don't have just one item of clothing that they wear. We have different items of clothing in our wardrobes for different occasions, for different moods. I'm not sure which writer. I keep attributing this to Margaret Atwood. It may have been another writer, but she sort of said that when she is choosing what to wear, what she's actually saying is, who am I going to be today?
Yes. Yeah.
And I think that's the same with perfume. And we all want to be different sorts of people at different times, sometimes maybe several times a day. And you build your wardrobe, your perfume wardrobe, around all of the different aspects of your personality that you want to reflect or you want to emphasize according to different contexts. But I think we also shouldn't overthink it. I mean, I think basically buy what you enjoy. But yes, you may want to think about have you got a light citrusy scent? Have you got a sort of heavier ambery scent? Have you got something that's, predominantly frankincense? You could build your wardrobe around a particular perfumer as well. I mean, I know people who do that. They sort of track
follow them around the different brands.
Absolutely. Yeah. So just smell lots and lots of different things. I think also, I don't know, Vess, if you could say anything about this, but this idea of selling perfumes to people according to the perfumes that they have enjoyed in the past, I don't think we do as much of that as we used to. I think now we actually say, well, maybe you should have something different to complement all of the other things in your wardrobe.
So it's a bit different to some of that thing that you'll get in books and music, whereas you like this, you might like this, that algorithmic thing.
Because actually now I think people think, well, if I've already got one of these, why do I need four others?
Yeah. Thank you. Adam, I was thinking about the work you do on men's magazines and now Blueprint across fragrance and grooming. I wonder what you see as the drivers to make a hit fragrance. I mean, we've already talked about Chanel Bleu and things like Aventus. Do you think it's about celebrity involvement or social media or a heavy marketing campaign? What do you think creates those hit fragrances? I suppose the ones that are really resonating with men.
I'm hesitant to say that it's celebrity anymore.
There's a bit less of that now, isn't there?
Yeah.
For men, I suppose.
Yeah, and I guess we can attach certain celebrities to certain fragrances, some of them very problematically, but I also just see a lot of celebrities that are associated with campaigns that I don't think made a dent in or made an impression. I think right now I'm even thinking maybe the most successful right now is I'm not a shill for Chanel, I promise, but Timothy might be the most relevant right now in terms of campaigns.
And Chanel spend, don't they? So you see it on billboards and TV and
otherwise it's Johnny Depp for Dior.
Problematic.
And so but in terms of what makes a success, I kind of think it depends on what the brand's definition of success is, and someone like those labels is going to have a very different definition than a niche perfumer. And so for me, I guess I just have a hard time making a singular answer to that question because
something like Aventus then, what would you attribute? I mean, it's such a phenomenon.
I mean, can they get around the accusations of being a dupe label or something, but can people view this fragrance as I think sometimes I feel like my job is just to, when I take the first whiff of something or wear it for the first day, it's not necessarily a matter of am I getting compliments on it, but am I just being stopped and saying that is the first time I've ever encountered. And I said that I have bad scent recall for how something compares, but I definitely have a good sense of that has a point of view and that has perspective. And a lot of things that have a point of view and perspective maybe won't make it for branding reasons or marketing reasons or whatnot. But I do think, again, I think I said this before, the cream rises to the top. And so I think if a brand has good storytelling and if they're genuinely launching things that are thought out and thorough and unique, I do think it will find its way there. But I think the old script is certainly gone of let's just market this to
Brad Pitt on the front of it.
Yeah.
TJ, what about you? Thinking about something like Creed, if you put yourself in the consumer's head or your audience, why do you think something like Aventus is massive? Because it isn't. I would probably say it's less. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. With something like Aventus, it's not really about storytelling, is it? What do you think it is that made it such a monster?
It's just a mass appealing scent that it's hard to not like that fragrance. It's just easy to wear. You can wear it.
Not cheap though.
It's not cheap. Yeah, definitely not cheap. That's why other companies copy and make it for a cheaper price. But it's just a scent that I think if you show 10 people this, it's going to be hard for one end to be oh, that's disgusting. So it's just a scent that's easy to like. But I feel like on from your point, say for example a brand like Maison Crivelli, who the founder Thibaut bases all of the fragrances off of his real life experiences. It's the stories and then the stories from the brand, and then it's us as content creators who can push that message across to our followers as well.
And I think that's the thing often, for probably speak for all of us, those stories and that narrative, that's the thing that gets us excited, isn't it? And it gives you something to, as you say, something to latch onto and talk about.
Because there's a lot of things out there that smell nice, but if I'm in a shop and the sales assistant's telling me why it was made, where the ingredients are from, I start to get excited and I want the fragrance. And there's a load of other things in the store that smell good, but that story is what gets me.
Absolutely. Final thing, just from my question, I wonder if you've had a wander around at the fair. You know, was there anything that
I haven't tried anything yet.
Have you not tried anything
afterwards?
Anything that caught your nose or your?
For me, Nyita by Rebecca.
Yes. Really interesting brand, isn't it?
Yeah, and I mentored Rebecca for 6 months 2 years ago through CW. So it feels like my baby is having a baby in that sense, to see how far she's come.
There's lots of babies there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But in that sense, that she's done an amazing job, like creating a fragrance brand, because it's not easy and it's not cheap to do a fragrance brand. So
and Nyita's gone from oils and home fragrance, and it's
and today launched
fragrances.
Yes, exactly. So yeah.
So that's definitely one to check out if you're going over to the main hall. Dariush, have you seen anything you liked over there?
Well, in the context of what we're talking about, I think I'm right in saying that there isn't a single brand in the hall that genders their fragrances, is there? I don't think there is. No, which is commendable, I think. If you haven't encountered Eau de Boujee, you must check them out, because their work is fantastic. Their perfumer P. Along is actually the same perfumer as the one we smelt here. But from stuff that's upcoming, I was impressed with the initial sniff of the sort of Middle Eastern trio that's coming from Gallivant. Yeah, they made a positive first impression.
Great.
But yeah, that's why I would recommend them.
I had the same answer.
That's okay.
They're really good, and Nick has some really fantastic fragrances that represent different cities, and
yes, I was in Alice and Susie's talk earlier, and we smelt Naples, which is beautiful, isn't it? That sort of incensey thing.
Yeah. And Istanbul is one of my favorite from his, but this new trio, I think, will.
So Middle Eastern, you say?
These three are Middle Eastern. There's a Riyadh one. There's Dubai one. Yeah, because he has Abu Dhabi already. In terms of new brands for me, I think Kingdom Scotland, I really enjoyed chatting with Imogen and sniffing some of those ones. There's the one that's like the Royal Gardens that are there. I'm not remembering the name of the scent, but that was a nice chat, a nice smell.
Great. Well, I'm sure you're all heading over there or been anyway, but there's so many great brands to chat to and things to sniff and experience. Well, I think that wraps up our chat bit, but I'm sure some of you have questions, and maybe one of the Blotter Squad might be able to take one of these mics, if that's okay. And does anyone have a question? And if you would say who it's for in the panel, could you grab that mic? Thank you so much. Does anyone have any questions for anyone on the panel? Yes. Gentleman over there.
Hey guys, thank you for the talk. It's really insightful. I think this could be remarked for TJ, but definitely applicable to the entire panel. Obviously, social media is becoming super important for all fragrance brands. And I was just kind of wondering what your favorite sort of marketing plays by fragrance brands have been recently, or what you think the most impactful ones have been recently.
So favorite campaigns that you've seen recently, or things that have really stuck with you. Has anybody got any thoughts?
In terms of actual campaigns, like I said, the Maison Crivelli, the way they do things, they do like a pre-launch on social media first without showing you what the name of the bottle is. But I think one thing brands are doing that I love right now is the pop-ups in Selfridges, Harrods and stuff, where you can just go over there, test the whole range, but with the focus on the newest release.
Something new.
Yeah.
Adam, Dariush, anything that's sort of caught your eye in terms of campaigns, things that have thought was a bit different or interesting?
We've been talking about celebrities, haven't we? And I just think it's really, really refreshing when a brand doesn't use a celebrity face. A lot of the brands that we talk about here in this context, a lot of the brands that we're smelling don't actually have huge advertising budgets. Right. So I suppose we don't see an advertising campaign. But to mention a sort of super mainstream brand, I just love the fact that Guerlain are still using an animated character to advertise Petite Robe Noire. And you know, not only does it not have a celebrity face, it doesn't have a face. It just has a little animated character. I think that's one of the best perfume ads in campaigns of the last 10, 12 years, I would say.
One's just come back to my head. I think a brand that does it amazingly well every single time is Kayali. All of their...
They make a big impact, don't they?
Yeah. And it's like months in advance, so you're just waiting for it to drop.
Yeah, that's a good one. Any other questions? Freddie. It's the Freddie Show.
Thank you. So can I do two questions?
Of course you can.
So my first one is because this is for TJ, because I know you do like a ton of content creation, and like when you first started off your account, did you get like the mick taken out of a bit for like doing fragrance content? And like, because coming from me, I've started a TikTok a couple months ago, and I get like the mick taken out of a lot at school for doing fragrance content.
Do you?
Yeah, a lot. Because like people, I don't know why, to be fair, but people just don't really like it. So like when you first started
probably
fragrance,
threatened because it's something a bit different and cool.
Exactly, and like there's nothing wrong with liking fragrances.
It's
not.
Like all the people in this room will agree with you wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
Did you experience that?
I didn't, and the reason why is the first 6 months of me making content, I never showed my face, so nobody knew who it was. I didn't show my face
in the shadows.
Yeah, literally until I hit 10K, so nobody knew, and I didn't tell my friends or anything. So
how did you just have a voiceover on it?
Yeah.
With the video stuff?
Yeah, voiceovers.
Right.
All content was voiceovers.
The anonymous man.
Literally.
They go, here I am.
Yeah. So it didn't. That wasn't an experience
is that
I had.
a period to get more comfortable with?
Yeah,
doing
it was just getting comfortable with speaking about fragrances and making sure you're saying the right things. But if I was to change something now, I would have started showing my face straight from the beginning, just to get comfortable behind the camera much quicker.
And you're such a natural now. Like honestly, he's got this such lovely, relaxed style, and you can see, everyone sort of warms to him. And I saw in the hall, everyone's rushing up to TJ. But yeah, he's brilliant on
Thank you.
Second question.
Second question, Freddie.
And also, this is like a really, really random question. But again, for TJ, because I'm like a really, really big fan of your videos. Like I've watched them all. So I was wondering, like I have a bottle of Replica and I've got a pen. Could you sign my bottle of Jazz Club?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Of course.
Amazing. I love that. Thank you, Freddie. Any other questions? Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, this is my wife, Ali Williams.
Thank you for the introduction.
I just want to tell everyone how brilliant I am.
He's just brilliant. You can all see how brilliant he is. I've got a question for each of you. So if you were stranded on a desert island and you could only if you could only take one fragrance with you, which fragrance would it be? You've got to narrow it down to one each, okay? So which fragrance would you each? And Haydn, you can answer it as well.
Oh, thank you.
We'll allow you.
Funnily enough, though, this is a segment that our friend, a great friend Alice, does on Desert Island Spritz. No, so it's a really good idea. It's a really good concept for what would you take to a desert island. Let's start with Adam.
Yeah, one of the 1,000 that I have. Yeah, I think right now, let's just answer what I wear the most right now. It's probably Bianco Profumo, Chicago brand. I love the name of this fragrance, but it's Neroli Pomodoro.
Oh, you told me about this on the podcast. And
they'd be a good guest. I think it's a father son, and they're
Chicago,
just the most Italian American.
From Chicago.
The dad's like a sausage seller or something. I don't know. It's like they're just like so Italian.
But they're good. You love them.
They're really good. Well, yeah, and it's Carlos behind him too, but like they have a good point of view and they're smart businessmen, and I think they're building a really beautiful brand for that. So I find myself wearing that one the most often when I'm looking, even if I just go for a walk, I'm like, that's what I want. Like that's gonna brighten this day, so that's my answer. Bianco Profumo.
Dariush, how about you? You're only allowed one, which must be torturous.
No, I know. And I have to say this one, because if I say anything different than anybody who's seen any of the videos will say, but in your videos you said, so it has to be Guerlain's Abbey Rouge, which is in many ways a kind of predictable choice, because like pretty much every single man, I think, and his uncle and granddad wore it in France. But it is amazing. It's from 1965, one of the greatest perfumes of all time, and probably one of the greatest masculine perfumes ever. Just this fantastic citrusy, leathery, ambery scent, and it would have to be. That would have to be the one.
A great choice. Vesa, you're only allowed one.
Yeah, and I think it's already discontinued fragrance, and I don't think
pick one that people can't get.
And I don't think the brand is available in the UK anymore either. But it's by Atelier Cologne and Silver Iris.
Silver Iris, yes.
Yes, that's kind of like powdery, but at the same time very sparkling iris fragrance. So that's my favorite.
They had a great shop, didn't they?
They had an amazing shop, yeah.
Gone.
Yeah, but I think I bought all of the stock of that fragrance in the UK, so I've got a lifetime, worth of stock.
How about you, TJ? This must be hard. Just one.
It is. Freddie probably knows which one it is, but I think a lot of people.
Let's ask Freddie. Ask Freddie.
What would I take? Desert Island. Not that. It's a nice summer fragrance. I talk about it a lot.
Come on, Freddie.
You got it. Tales from Zanzibar. Yeah. Yeah. I like it.
Decent.
Got the Freddie seal of approval, everyone. And I think again, like choosing outfits and stuff is difficult. One that I love and always go back to is Austin's, who are in the building next door, Cedarwood Heart, just because I just love the profile, but also it reminds me of pipe smoking and my granddad, and all those sort of evocative fragrances, and I never regret wearing it, and it seems to elevate any outfit and just makes me feel really good. So that would be my choice. We've probably got time for one or two more questions. Yes. Thank you. Sorry about this sort of, yeah. Lady with the white shirt here. Thank you.
It's so exciting to hear you guys talk about men getting into fragrances and stuff. I've got a young son and I can't wait for him to wear my fragrances when he grows up.
Amazing.
But on a more depressing thought, I went into John Lewis the other day and I was at the Chanel counter, and Blue are doing a 3-in-1 salve for hair, hands and face. I just wondered if you had any opinions on that, because I thought the days of 10-in-1s was over. But
like Lynx that does like every bit of your body. Yeah. Any thoughts on?
Even Dior's has the Sauvage of all like the serum and the moisturizer and everything. Maybe this is part of smell maxing. It's just like get it wherever you can get it.
Get it all over you.
And I think people are time poor. So in that sense, that I think we think that this one product needs to do 10 different things now.
And I've definitely heard that a lot on the podcast, because on Man in the Mirror we talk about products that men use in their morning and evening routines, and there is often that comment comes up about, I don't have much time in the morning and evening, so a product that has multi functions is quite useful, but it does seem like a lot of functions. I think we have time probably for one or two. Yes, lady on the third row. Okay, so is scent important in terms of grooming and skincare products? Let's start with Adam.
So for me, I would say it's not. Maybe because I prioritize that in a fragrance. I do know that a lot of brands obviously want to add that experience to the, if you're aftershave or whatnot. I guess I try to, when I'm writing articles, I try to latch onto anything that's remotely interesting about a product, and the fragrance gives me more to talk about, so I always appreciate that. My perspective on this changed recently. I was in Korea and I got a facial from a very fragranted brand, and now my eyelids are basically forever just like reddened, and I've, and it's the scented thing that I feel like did that to me. It was like the heavily fragranted one. So now I'm being very inclined to be like, let's not do too many fragranted products, but skincare products. And so I think that's changed my perspective, but I also realize that I don't represent everybody. And so I still like to mention it when it's available. I think it's interesting, even if it's not for me. Yeah.
Thank you. Dariush?
Very, very simply, it is important to me in the sense that I try to seek out anything that doesn't have a scent, because I can't stand scents being mixed. I can't stand scented detergent either, and I cannot abide fabric softener. But there are some products out there that you can't get without a scent. But thankfully, the scent of skincare tends to fade pretty quickly, I think. Yeah.
I think for me personally, I actually like scented products, but in that sense that I don't want to smell the moisturizer that I'm wearing. I don't want to smell it 5 minutes later in that sense, but it's that, once you apply it, exactly, that is important. But I think it would be off-putting if I could still smell it later on, be like, oh, I'm wearing, a moisturizer. It's like, no.
How about you, TJ? Do you wear skincare products?
Not too many. Whatever the missus has, I'll use. But
oh, really? So you just share products?
She just told me what to put on my face, and I'm like, okay, cool. But yeah, the smells only matter for me for the deodorants, body sprays, and then fragrance. But if I'm using moisturizer or anything, I would just go with something vanilla, because I just like to smell that all the time. Yeah.
Right. Look, let's take. It's been so brilliant to get all your questions. I think, just in terms of time, probably one more. Yeah, young man there. So sorry. Maybe afterwards, come and see people.
Hello. Thank you for the talk. Do you think brands using weird notes like burnt computer notes, do you think it's silly marketing or good marketing?
Sorry, what was the note you said?
Like some brands are using burnt computer or like bubblegum notes. And
yeah. So unusual notes in fragrance. What is that, good or bad marketing?
For me, it's just marketing. It's something that gets us talking. So yeah, I haven't got a problem with that. It's a bit of fun.
It makes you remember it, I suppose.
Yeah,
doesn't it?
like we just got the question now because of that. So it's
I suppose
working.
whether you want to smell like that in a bottle.
Yeah, and do you remember it for the right reasons then?
Yeah, I smell of my computer. Yeah, let's do one final question.
So in regards to fragrances, when I decide whether I like a fragrance or not, it's either due to a memory, something, a certain smell. So like, I'm just wondering, is there something specific that you guys kind of look for that triggers, oh, that perfume is maybe a perfume that I would purchase as a collective or a spray that you can use?
So what are the reasons?
Yeah, so what are the reasons that you would purchase a perfume specifically, other than the brand or the person behind it, XYZ? It's more looking into specifically the scent of it. So if it's a specific rose scent or vanilla, is it due to also, like, can you give the reason why? What was the factor? Like, was it a memory, etc.?
Anybody want to chime in?
I think for me personally, it's like, how does it make me feel? You know, and do I feel myself when I wear this fragrance? Because at the same time, it's a bit of that wardrobe in that I have plenty of different fragrances. But at the same time, you know, how do I feel that morning, for example? But at the same time, I need to feel myself. Like, I don't want to be anyone else, in that sense that sometimes it might be that this fragrance is not me.
Like it's wearing you rather
exactly.
than you wearing you. Anybody else?
I hang out in some powdery fragrances because that's what my mom smells like. And so it's not that I necessarily want to wear them for myself, but it's definitely what I'm like gravitating to at home or even wearing around the house. And, you know, I live an ocean away from her, but it's like it's really nice for, yeah. She's retiring today, by the way. She's
wow.
Yeah.
It's actually a really, really good question. It sounds like a simple question, but that, you know, because there are lots of smells that we enjoy, but what is the thing that actually would make me say, I'm going to spend money on this? I think more often than not, for me personally, is the issue of whether I've smelt this before. And also, do I get why it was made? A few people in the room will get what I mean when I say this. Maybe not everybody will, but for me, wearing a perfume is having a conversation with the person who made it. It's having a conversation with the perfumer. And if I can get a real sense of where their head was at when they made it and why they made it and why they made that perfume and not any other and what they were trying to express, it's like carrying around a painting with you all day long and sort of seeing it and admiring it and uncovering new aspects of it. And I think that's the thing that makes me think, okay, I am going to buy this because I want to continue this conversation through smell.
Yeah, for me, I would kind of categorize a fragrance that I'm gonna buy based off of my experience with something else similar. So say like if I smell an ambery fragrance, I would always attribute that to something to wear on a night out, an evening out, a dinner, just because of the experience I've had with something like Grand Soir by MFK. So depending on what scent profile it is, I will picture something in my collection and base that on where to wear it or when to wear it.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. I just, a very quick second to thank KGA, who have kindly donated the goodie bags that each of you should have under your chair. Also, Maximize, who gave us the blotters. I want to thank my amazing panel. I'm sure you agree they've been brilliant. And let me just give you their Instagram or TikTok handle so you can go and follow them if you don't already. There's Persolaise, who's at Persolaise, which is Persolaise. Adam Hurly at Adam Hurly, TJ Talk Sense at TJ Talk Sense, and Vesa Kalho at VESAKALH.
Exactly.
Oh, Vesa Kalho. So please follow them and find them online, and I know many of you will enjoy their content anyway. Thank you so much for spending an hour with us. I've loved it, and thank you.